about the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Devlin. It is vampires. There's a host of damned souls of telepaths.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. Can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Welcome to Paranormal UK Radio, the flagship show on the Paranormal UK Radio network. I'm your host, Irene Allen Block, and my co-host with me tonight, as usual, the beautiful, the handsome, the sexy Mark Johnson.
Lies. All of it is lies.
Oh, yeah.
So how was your bank holiday weekend? We seem to share holiday weekends.
Yeah, you were away, weren't you, at the coast?
Yes, I was down. My wife and I went down to the Jersey Shore. You have to say Jersey.
Jersey.
That's how they say it here. Jersey. Jersey Shore for the weekend down by Cape May. Really lovely. Beautiful weather. Had a great time.
Yeah.
Nice to get away a bit.
Had a drinky?
Several, as a matter of fact. In fact, one place made them so well we kept going back.
I know. I kept seeing the photographs of the drinkies on Facebook.
Yes. They were. They should have been classified in their own food group.
Yeah.
That's how good they were.
Yeah, and for me, this it was a bank holiday here in the UK, and it was also my husband's 70th birthday. My beautiful, wrinkly husband, his 70th birthday, and all the family came down, and we had a fantastic time with all the grandchildren. We went to the beach, and he's got a new tractor for mowing the lawn, and they were playing on that. And I'll never have long grass again. Do you know that, Mark? I will never, ever. I'll be able to say, get out there and mow that lawn, and he'll be up and out that chair. Instead of, yeah, I'll do it in a minute. Yeah.
What about you getting out there and mowing the lawn? Is your legs broke?
I got to learn to drive the thing first. Apparently, it's got 7 gears.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's too many for you.
Or is it 5 gears and 7 cutting heights? Something like that. I don't know. But it really does shift around that garden because, you know. But the only trouble is, Mark, with the lawnmower that he used to push, I had nice up and down lines in the garden. Now I've got circles and wiggly lines around the bushes and everywhere else, but there's not one straight line.
Deal with it. It's still get the lawn cut in half the time and just tell them to go out with the weed whacker and trim it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. That's my weekend. And what have we got coming back to Paranormal UK Radio? We got Inside the Goblin, Mark.
Yep. Inside the Goblin Universe with host Ron Murphy is coming back into the fold. And as soon as we work out with Ron, we're going to have his show up within the next week or so. And Ron is also going to be coming back with a brand new show, as we advertised last week, with co-host Deborah Hatswell, talking about all things cryptid.
Yeah, that's Cryptid Realm.
The Cryptid Realm.
Cryptid Realm, yeah. And that'll be all on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And, yeah, it's going to be fun.
It should be. It should be. Now, you know, even though we have Goblin Universe back, there's still one goblin out there that we need to, bury. Put back in his hole. Tell him to shut the front door.
Shut the what?
Shut the front door.
Oh, shut the front door.
Yes.
Oh, that's a new saying to me. But yeah, there is only one goblin inside the Goblin Universe, people, and that is the one that goes out on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. The original Inside the Goblin Universe with Ronald Murphy.
That's correct.
Any other Inside the Goblin Universe out there, it's stolen.
pretty much.
Yeah, stole the name.
You have been served notice.
Yes. Yes, that's it.
That's it.
Anyway, what else did I want to say? What did I want to say?
What about that terrorist attack over in Belgium that our media over here is barely even touching upon?
What I could make out, I haven't listened much to the television today, but what I can make out is this was a man that was in prison. He was actually born in Belgium, been there all his life, and he went to prison for petty crimes. And while in prison, he was radicalized. He was released from prison yesterday, and today he attacked people with knives on the street. He attacked, I can't remember whether it was 2 or 3 police women, stabbed them, I think in the neck, took their guns, shot them dead, shot passing motorists, took a woman hostage, and all this before the police actually were able to shoot him down.
This is just, again, this world is going insane. And over here, our media is not even covering it.
Yeah, but this was in Belgium, in Liege in Belgium.
Yeah. Yeah, our media is not really touching upon it because they would rather talk about how Roseanne Barr said something mean to somebody on Twitter, and so her new hit show, which had millions of viewers, just gets canceled because she did an off-colored tweet. Yes, it was. I read the tweet. It could be taken as racist. Yes, she apologized for it, but nope, that's not enough. You know, we have to destroy somebody and take away their show, and of course, and
that's more important than shooting in Belgium.
Yeah, talking about racism over here is more important than actual threats of violence that are going on around the world.
Yeah. Or in your own country.
Yeah, what about the latest school shooting, which just came and went, and nobody's even batting an eye about it? It's like, have these become so commonplace now over here?
I think that was talked more about over here on the news. You know, even today that was mentioned.
Our media
in the news
has such screwed and skewed priorities over here. It's not even funny.
No, I know.
But what can you do? This is the 21st century.
Well, you're all dumbed down, aren't you?
Don't put me in that lot. No, yeah, they are. The sheeple are given Kardashians and celebrities and other things to concern themselves about other than what's really going on out there. But nope, this is not the rant show, so I will tone it down.
It isn't. No, it's not the rant show.
No.
We may have a rant show back at some point or other so we can rant.
Oh, yes. I've been really good the last several months, just keeping off social media, keeping my mouth shut. Yeah.
No, you've just been ranting at me.
Yeah. Well, you and I could do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can. Right. So.
Yes.
A guest.
Who is our guest tonight?
Our guest is Ryan Griffiths.
Hello, Ryan. Welcome to the program.
Ryan.
Hello.
Well, as everyone can hear or will hear, Ryan hails from Scotland.
You do?
Yes, you do. Okay. Hello, Ryan.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously Scottish. I love porridge and haggis.
We won't hold that against you.
No, but some people will.
Wait a minute, Ryan. This is very important. Do you have your porridge with sugar or salt? Salt.
Every time. Salt
That's the boy.
And it's always at the bottom of the bowl before you put a little bit of salt in, and then you put the porridge on top.
Yeah.
That's how I.
That's it. If you don't have the salt on your porridge, you're not Scots.
That's absolutely right. And you might sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top, depending on how you're feeling. That just depends on yourself. But yes, I hail from the Shetland Isles. in the middle of the North Sea. That's always, when you look at the map of Britain, that's that little island that's in the box. It's freezing cold up there all the time. I've travelled all over the country in recent years with my psychic mediumship, and gone as far as Northern Ireland and places like that. Doing like spiritualist churches, halls, individual one-to-one readings. And of recent times, I've been mainly focused on my paranormal investigating side. Still using my mediumship, but more focused on the investigating, if I'm honest. I'm a keen sportsman. I love sports. And music's a must, as we were talking about Bon Jovi before we went on air.
Yeah.
So, I've got a keen interest in quite a lot of things. History. I love my history. So.
Well, there's plenty of that in this country, isn't there? In the UK.
Yeah, very much so.
More so than there is over here. You've got about 1,000 years ahead of us here.
Yeah, I mean, we've spread ourselves far and wide when it comes to the history side of things in regards to the globe, haven't we? So.
Yeah.
Now, Ryan, let me ask you, with your psychic mediumship, how old were you when you first realized that you were seeing and experiencing things that other people, normal people, or like myself, wouldn't have noticed?
Well, if I'm absolutely honest, the first time that I realised that nobody else was seeing, or certainly there was a select few people that were around me who were seeing what I was seeing and experiencing what I was experiencing, I would have been about 19 years old. Because I was seeing many, many things throughout my life, but I didn't have any understanding of what it was. So, as far as I was concerned, whenever I spoke about it, I was confused why people would say, well, hang on a minute, there's nothing there, or I didn't hear that, So it was mainly in my later teens where I went to see a clairvoyance evening, and I got 7 messages in the same night. And I could see what I now know was that medium's guide speaking to her. And then when I described this to her, she was blown away, because she said nobody else has been able to do that. And would I like to try and take things further and develop my mediumistic abilities? And that's when I got my better level of understanding.
So you were actually watching another medium perform, and you were able to see her guide interact with her.
Well, yes, but at the time I had no clue that this was her guide. All I could see was a young man stood to her, would have been her left side, and he looked, I think the only way to explain it was it was very cliche. It was very, very transparent. He had it was like a very light glow to him. There was no colour. I couldn't see no blue tops, no red tops, that sort of thing. And I couldn't hear what he was saying, but it was as if he was whispering in her ear, So that surprised me.
Huh.
When I described him, because she said she probably thought I was another crackpot, to be honest. Let's be honest about it. And then when she said, "Oh, if you saw him, can you describe him?" So I did, and she was just blown away. She said, "That's almost impossible. How you could have seen him."
Yeah, that's fascinating. Now, you were able to see people or things like this for a long time. It just wasn't really until that point where you talked to somebody else publicly about it?
That's right. I mean, the earliest memory I have of something that I can factually back up that you could look at was my first experience, I suppose, was I was seeing a few different things from time to time, but on one occasion I was staying over at my granddad's house, and the bedroom that I slept in was upstairs, and there was a slight L shape to the room. So the bedroom door, you had to sort of look round the corner to see the bedroom door. And I woke up one night, and you probably had that feeling like someone's watching you, and it's a right strange feeling. So I felt it was coming from like the doorway area. And I sort of looked round at the doorway, and there stood in the doorway was this little girl. She looked to me about 4 years old, ringlets in her hair, looked very, very smart. She had what looked like a Victorian dress on, little buckled shoes, frilly socks, all that sort of thing. And she didn't speak to me. She just sort of looked at me, smiled, nodded, and this pardon the expression, but scared the hell out of me. So I sort of ducked under the covers and went back to sleep. The very next morning, I mentioned what I'd seen to my grandfather, and he was a very strict Victorian-type man, so, he wasn't really interested in what I had to say when it came to ghosts. So I explained this person to him that I'd seen, and he sort of clammed up, shook his head, didn't want to speak about it. And about 10 years went past, and this time I was with my grandmother, and we were talking away about spooky stories, as we often did, and I told her that one. And she got upset. She left the room. Now, of course, I got heartbroken that I'd upset my grandmother, as you can imagine. She came back about 10 minutes later with 2 photograph albums. One looked slightly older than the other. And she opened the first one and she said, is that the little girl that you've seen? And I said, well, yes. And, Nan, I called her Nan. I said, yes, Nan. I said, but she's wearing different clothes. So my grand's still crying away, and she opens up the second one and she says, is this how you seen her? And what she showed me was a death photograph. Now, I know that sounds morbid, but a long, long time ago, that's what they used to do. They used to photograph the dead, which is, in some cultures, is quite a common thing.
It was common with the Victorians, wasn't it?
Yeah. And this photograph was very old. I don't know how old exactly, but it was quite old. It was black and white. But the girl, when she showed me the picture, was exactly how I described her. And my gran, once she composed herself, said how I had described her is how she herself, the only person who was there at the time, had dressed her daughter, her very firstborn daughter, who died at 4 years old from pneumonia, I believe it was, down in Tooting in the East End of London. She died of pneumonia, and that was how she had been prepared for burial.
Oh.
So I know that was a bit long-winded, but that was my, apart from the clairvoyance evening, that was the first.
That's one that really stood out.
Because I've got evidence to say, well, look, I can back this up. Well, look at these photographs. How could I have known that?
Yeah.
So that set me on a path to then be intrigued with things that were happening at the time, such as Most Haunted starting, all these different things that were going on. And here I am today.
Wow. Glad you are.
So, us Scots can talk.
Yeah. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want someone that can talk. Okay, so that was one of your first memorable experiences.
Yes.
And I presume you've had plenty since that.
Yes, I've had some. I know you guys are cultured in the paranormal. It goes without saying. I've had some excellent experiences. I've had some experiences that would, for want of a better word, scare the bejesus out of you.
In other words, knock your socks off.
Well, yes. I think I take my shoes off, my socks will knock themselves off anyway.
Oh, dear. So what was one of the most frightening ones that you had then?
Well, most frightening one is one that, even now, just preparing myself to speak about it, is still scares me to this day. And I lived in Bristol at the time, and I was working with my uncle on a building site, and often what we did was we bought houses from auction, done them up, resold them. It was when
that was a craze at some point.
Yeah,
everybody was doing that, buying houses, doing them up, Mark, selling them for a profit, buying another derelict house or a rundown place, doing that up and selling that, and making money, big money out of it.
Well, we made ridiculous money. I mean, without boring about figures, I remember one occasion we bought one as little as 42,000, and I think we sold it for nearly $250,000.
Yeah.
was ridiculous, but then all of a sudden, as you know, bang, that was it, a game over.
Yeah.
But yeah, on one occasion, we got this house from auction. We used to live in the houses while we were doing them up. And my uncle was away one night, I think out with some friends. And for several times I'd gone to the bathroom, which was like, you had to get through a galley kitchen to get to the bathroom, which was at the end of the kitchen. And every time I came back through, I always got that same old feeling that someone was behind me. And it actually became annoying. It didn't become scary, it just became annoying how every time I walked through the kitchen, back towards the front room, or the living room as we call it, I always got that horrible, horrible feeling. And it really started to annoy me until one day I spun around and I couldn't see anything. I didn't see no ghost standing there or anything. I just could feel a presence. And I screamed at the top of my voice. I said, look, this is my house. I live here. You don't. I'm alive. You're dead. Go away. I remember those words as clear as day. Now, this is the bit where not many people believe me, but if you could see me now, I'm actually shaking, and that's not putting on a drama. I genuinely am. But just as I said that, I confronted what I thought was a nasty energy or a spirit. Next, I could feel this immense pressure on my throat, and then I started to feel it get stronger and stronger. It felt like a hand was gripping my throat, and it pinned me against the wall. The only way that I can explain other than that, I mean, again, I didn't see anything, but the only other way I can explain it was like my whole body just froze. I couldn't see anything in front of me, but I had that feeling, and I know it sounds stupid, but I had that feeling that someone was right nose to nose with me.
Oh, I've been there many times. Many times.
Yeah, and it's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You can't see nothing, but you can feel that there's something right in you can feel it right in your face.
Yeah.
You could probably hear the tone of my voice, the way I'm speaking about it. And the next thing that I remember was I went so rigid, it was as if I was frozen solid. And to this day, I can't verify that my feet weren't touching the floor. They may well have been, but it felt like they weren't. I wasn't able to look at my feet. But the next time I got marched back to the living room where the sofa was. I got placed on the sofa. My legs got flipped up onto the sofa, and I was placed in a laying down position. Then my hands were placed as if I were laying in a coffin, so they were crossed across my chest.
Yeah.
And my eyes closed. I know that's sort of silly, as if I didn't...
No, it doesn't sound silly to me.
I couldn't open my eyes. The only thing that I seen with my eyes closed was a luring shadow stood above me. Now, if you were to close your eyes now and rub your hand in front of your eyes, you can see a slight shadow.
That's right.
That's all I could see, but it was of a figure laying over me. And then that was it. I must have passed out or what have you. Now, this is where it gets interesting, as if it isn't already. I woke up, and I know I say the word woke, so I could have been sleeping, but I wasn't. I woke up in the kitchen.
You came round.
Yeah, I came round is probably the best way to say it.
Mm.
I came round in the kitchen with just my boxer shorts on, underneath the kitchen worktop, and I was absolutely soaking wet.
Wow.
Now, it gets even weirder. So obviously I'm freaking myself out. I'm thinking, what's happened? I get up and I go back through to the living room, and there is my clothes exactly fold. You couldn't fold them any perfect. You couldn't possibly fold them as perfectly as they were. And they were in the centre of the room on the floor, folded perfect. I mean, I can't explain that. That's just weird.
Well, I know one thing. If I turned around and said all that stuff in this house, I think I would be absolutely bombarded with everything that was loose and being able to be picked up and chucked at me. Yeah, because I've got a highly active house.
Yeah, the house I'm in, as we're speaking, is the same, but it's.
But I do get aggressive with them. You know, if they get up my nose or they get in my way, I will tell them to You know, especially if I feel negativity, it's up goes the hand and it's F off now.
No, I'm glad you said that, because that brings me on to something. Is I often get asked as a medium whenever I come off the rostrum at churches or wherever. It's quite a common question that people say, so how do you speak to spirit?
Yeah, well,
I say to them, well, how do I speak to you?
Yeah.
Because nothing annoys me more than we go on a. I mean, obviously, if they're inexperienced, it's not their fault. You know, people have to learn and by their own experiences. But when you go on a paranormal investigation and people speak like spirit or babies, or speak to them,
yeah.
And it's like, no, just speak to them like they're people.
Well, this is it. You know, if you've got a respecting spirit, you speak to it with respect. But if you've got something negative that's straight up into your face that's going to attack you, you've got to put up your defences straight away. And that language does come out. You know, I'm a lady, but it still comes out of me and it moves it. The amount of energy I exert out shifts it out of my way.
You're absolutely right, dead on there.
If I was to turn around and say, oh, please don't do that to me, please don't get up, you know, don't get so close to my face, it would be up my nose, I tell you.
Well, it's no different to a bully or anything like that. I've often said to someone recently who's got complaints about activity in their house, how do I get rid of it, Ryan? I said, right, well, I'm on my way. I said, but in the meantime, stand strong. If you feel comfortable, say a prayer, but you don't have to. It's just if you feel comfortable, do that. I said,
that often helps people to,
of course,
to feel better about everything. They feel more protected if they're saying a prayer.
Exactly, and that after all, from my experience, and I can't say that it's factual, but it's my experience.
Yeah.
Is that's the best way forward. The more relaxed you become, the more focused you become, and the more focused you become, the more stronger you become. And then therefore you can deal with anything that comes at you, or potentially anything that comes at you, energy-wise.
But 9 out of 10 times, these things that are actually in people's houses are harmless anyway.
Exactly.
You know, it's very rare to get something really bad like you got in that house. Did you ever find out what it was?
It was actually a very, very similar case to the Enfield haunting. There was a very nasty old man. This is just a short version. A very nasty old man had passed away in his chair in his front, which just so happened to be the same position that I had put my sofa.
Yeah.
And I'd only found that out because the boy that lived next door was 93 years old. And he was telling me all about it. You know, he was saying, he said he was an absolute, I won't mention the word.
Miserable old fuck.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to say arsehole, but I didn't know if I could swear. But,
hey, we on the network, we can say whatever we want.
Oh, well, that's good.
Go on, show him a bleeper, Mark.
Our bleeper?
Yeah.
Beep.
There you go.
Okay.
Fuck. But it was a very similar case, and that was all it was. You know, he just didn't like us disrupting, and if you noticed what I said at the beginning, doing work on the house, which is a common.
When I first moved into this house, Ryan, right, well, stuff was happening. Stuff was happening all over the place. You know, they were letting me know they were about. I already knew they were about anyway because I'd seen them. But they were letting the whole family know that they were about. So one day I just stood in the kitchen. I said, look, I'm in this house to look after this house. If I don't stay in this house and keep this house for you, this house is going to fall down. It's your house. You built the house. I'm only a caretaker.
That's right.
From that day on, I never had any problems with them.
You see, again, you do the same thing as what we said a minute ago. It's just about showing authority, showing control, and you know, feeling comfortable about the situation.
Yeah, well, I think with Herbert and Annie, it was Herbert, really, he was the more aggressive one. He's the one that actually built the house. Annie was his wife. But with Herbert, I think he felt that we were intruders in his house. The house had been empty for 5 years, you know, and his after his daughter died, because she inherited the house, and she died an old maid. And after that, it stayed empty for 5 years. So this family was still carrying on living in it, this spiritual family sort of thing. And of course, then we move in, Londoners as well, and they're Welsh, dominantly Welsh.
Good luck.
We move in, and it started kicking off. So just a few words explaining to him that, we were the caretakers. We were here to look after the house. If the house is his, it'll remain his for as long as he wants it. And I've had no problems. I see him every now and then. He's even helped me in situations when, in emergency situations. He got a door. It's a long story anyway, but in emergency situations, Herbert's always been there. So, the dog's all happy with him, so why not? Leave him alone all the time he's there.
Yeah, I know. I can't be doing with all this. We need to get rid of this spirit, that spirit, the next spirit. Why? It's like you said.
I tell you something, right?
What?
So houses are like, you can imagine a house that is lived in, and all of a sudden that family moves out. That house dies. The feeling and the energy and everything moves from that house. It dies. Happened to my house in London. Now I've forgotten what I was going to say. And it's the same. It's the same with having a spirit family in the house. It keeps that house alive. And one thing or another. If they were to move out, this house, the whole atmosphere, I think, would change for the worse. For the worst. Plus, I swear blind that, the house is actually built on ley lines, and you get some nasty stuff travelling through, but it's travelling through. It's like Herbert allows it to come in and then kicks it back out again.
Yeah, that's it.
No?
Yeah, that totally, yeah.
So he protects the house as well.
Well, that's it. The thing is it's very much when we see spirit, whether we're experienced or not, it will give us a little shock. We'll be like, oh my God, what was that? And then we relax. We're all right. We're fine. Obviously, depending on how you react with it. I mean, the likes of myself, I'd get a bit of a jump and a bit of a scare, and then I would be okay. But
I'm totally opposite. I take no notice. I see them walking around, standing beside me, and one thing or another, all the time. I just take no notice.
You see, it's strange.
So it's only the only time I take notice is when their energy feels different.
Yes. But you see, it's strange for me because when I do my paranormal investigating, I try my hardest to keep composed, and 9 times out of 10 I will. But there's always that 1% where I jump and scream like an absolute big baby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you big girl.
Yeah, but when I do my mediumship or anything like that, it's not a problem. When I go about my daily life, it's not a problem. But you put me in the dark because of that experience that I told you about previously. You put me in the dark or anything like that, or in a situation that I'm not used to, like I'm out of my comfort zone, then it's a different kettle of fish for me.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Ryan, were you almost haunted?
Was I almost haunted?
Yeah.
I been to see some of the live shows, but I haven't been on it.
Oh. I recognise your face from somewhere.
I don't know. I've been about quite a few years now.
Mark's always about.
Crime what? Maybe?
Yeah, and I'm trying to lose some weight too. So that there's less of me about.
There's more of me.
Well, I wanted to comment earlier, but I was just enjoying the conversation that, between the two of you having lived in houses with spirits and, I lived in one house when I first moved to New Jersey that had activity in it. And I've actually experienced that where it feels like somebody's right in your face screaming at you, but you can't hear anything. But the last one house I lived in, not before this one, it wasn't that there was anybody there full time, but it felt like people kept passing through, constantly people passing through.
Yeah.
Whether it was like a spiritual highway or something in that area, I'm not sure. But we'd have some experiences, but they all seemed transient, and all the energies felt different.
Well, you see, it might just be simple residual energy, you know, whereas what we were speaking about there was a lot of it was like it was in the here and now, if you like. What you maybe, I mean, it's only a theory. I mean, I obviously don't know, I wasn't there, but it may well have been like, you'll hear people talk about the stone tape theory and all these different things where like the stones or the building or the wood can absorb energy over time. That can build up like residual energy, and it may well be that you would experience different things that had happened there, different energies building up. Whereas in Irene's case and myself, it was a spirit that was there all the time, that we were getting used to, that we were experiencing on a daily basis, and what have you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. And you know, there is Irene and I in our research over the years, you know, there's a lot of different things we think we're dealing with, from everything from actual spirits of people who once lived to other types of phenomenon as well. In fact, Irene, you've been having a lot of your own kind of strange experiences lately that don't feel like spirits.
Yeah. Since years ago, I took a photograph in the bathroom, a bathroom of this haunted house that I was investigating. And there was a man running through the bathroom. Now, there was only me and Lorna in that bathroom. And this man came out on the photograph, and we called him the time traveller.
Yeah.
Since then, I've had no end of blasted experiences where it has the same feeling, the same energy. And I think... in fact, yesterday, we were coming back from the beach with my granddaughter, all right? And my son had gone on ahead with his car. As we came up the road, we could see his vehicle parked outside the gates. And we saw somebody standing beside the passenger window, because it was across the road pointing at the gates, right?
Yeah.
Ready to go in. We saw somebody standing at near the passenger window. So we thought it was Billy, my son, getting out. I just got out of the car and was just about to open the gates, right? Now, both myself and my granddaughter witnessed this. My husband didn't. He was concentrating on driving. But we witnessed it at the same time, and we both gasped at the same time. Yeah. There's this person standing at the passenger door, right? Well, there's us thinking that's Billy, just got out of the car. He's just going to open the gates and drive in, right? Yep. So as we're watching this person standing beside the car drove in. And the person there that was standing beside the car just vanished in front of our eyes. Yeah, as we kept towards it. And that is the second one a couple of weeks ago. I'm sitting in the front room. I looked up and saw somebody moved quite fast past my sitting room window. I jumped up, looked out there thinking I had an intruder in the garden. This person had got as far as the double gates at the end of the drive, turned around and looked in my direction, just vanished. Never opened the gates and went through it.
Do you find that when that happens that you end up with gaps of time before the next time that happens, or do you find that, does it happen at several specific times, I mean?
No, it's happening at all different times. It was daylight yesterday when we came along the road, when both me and Amy saw what we saw. And Amy goes, "Oh, how can he drive in? He's standing at the door," It was just out of this world.
Yeah, yeah.
And
we see that.
And she even just the same way as I saw him, with a dark top on, dark grey top. Billy was wearing a light grey or a light top, So
that's good. can confirm that with someone else who witnessed it at the same time.
Well, it was the very first time that it's been witnessed by someone else at the same time as me, except for a car traveller that came to the airport that day with us. Then my husband saw him as well. But there is you see, the difference, there is a difference in the feel of these sightings to a ghost or a spirit or something like that, or anything evil. There is a total difference. I said to you, I think today, Mark, didn't I? They feel alive. They feel breathing.
Yes.
It's like it's like I'm getting visitations from time travelers, or for some reason. I don't know what.
No, I can understand
and I've seen loads of them, loads of it happening to me.
There's a lot of that pictures of the famous so-called time travel. And I say so-called because we don't know. But it's the same man that was pictured in a lot of older photographs, wasn't there? It was going about Facebook not so long ago, and I think he had like a hat on or something. It was like a...
I don't know.
I've seen this one, and the guy that posted it had said that is this a time travel, and it showed you like an old wartime street, but the man who was dressed as if he'd come from the 80s or the early 90s even. I've seen
that picture, but the picture that we caught in the bathroom, he was wearing some sort of helmet, wasn't he, Mark, and holding something in his hand.
This picture is one of the most fascinating ones I've ever seen, and it's almost impossible to explain because Irene and her partner who were doing the investigation were the only ones in this tiny bathroom standing in the door, took this picture, and yet it looks like this man, crystal clear as day, is walking between them.
Well, running.
Well, look like he's moving fast to their right. He's wearing a black outfit with a black helmet that has a chin strap on. It looks very militaristic, actually, almost like assault, like what SWAT teams wear and assault-like gear. And in one hand, he's holding a device in front of him that we can't quite figure out what it is, but he's moving with a purpose. He's absolutely clear as day, and he shouldn't be there. Absolutely shouldn't be there. And there's nowhere for him to go because it's a tiny little bathroom, and it looks very modern, or even, I don't know. It's one of those, we call him a time traveler because we really can't figure out what else to call him.
I'd have to see this.
I'll send you the picture on it, but
please do. Yeah.
It's very intriguing because this is obviously not like a ghost of somebody who's died in the past. This person is too crystal clear, and he's wearing an outfit that is modern or maybe semi-modern, could go a few years either way, but it looks, he's wearing a helmet with a chin strap, all black, tight-fitting clothes.
An insignia on one of them.
I don't know about an insignia, but it's just, he's obviously wearing a uniform of some type with a helmet.
Yeah,
and it looks like what SWAT or police officers or tactical assault people would be wearing, that type of a helmet. And whatever he's holding in his hand is covering it enough that you really can't tell what it is. But he's moving through the room with a purpose, like they're not even there. So we have to ask ourselves, are we seeing a different moment in time, like a bleed over through two time periods? Maybe it's not just time. Maybe it's space, too. Maybe it's a different dimension, two dimensions overlapping each other briefly. But
well, this is it.
I've seen so many, Ryan. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I believe that. And I tell you, it absolutely fascinates me. I'm never one to write off anything immediately. I like to listen, like I just did there, and I like to investigate and do a little bit of research myself. I love it. I'm fascinated. Now, as it goes, I am a huge time travel fanatic. I love all the movies you could imagine. I've seen all the documentaries. I just absolutely love it. And if it ever became possible, which I'm pretty sure it is, then I would love to have a go. Definitely.
Yeah, well, this man yesterday was modern. The man that went past the window was modern. And both were about the same height. So, at first I thought I had a peeping Tom on the grounds when the one went past the window. And he went past at quite a speed. And by the time I got from the sofa over to the window, he was at the gates at the bottom, at the end of the drive, right? Yeah. And he just turned around, looked over at the window, looked at me, and then just vanished in front of my eyes. And the same thing happened yesterday in front of me and my granddaughter. This man just vanished. The car drove in, and as the car went through the gates, it just vanished.
You see, what's interesting is a comment you made at the beginning of us chatting here, where you said about the ley lines.
Yeah.
So and then, of course, Mark saying about alternate realities and things like that is absolutely very possible. I think we would be naturally naive to say that it was impossible, because there's how at risk of pissing some people off. It'd be very arrogant to say that there's no extraterrestrial life, there's no such thing as time travel, there's no Roswell, there's none of this. Of course there is. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, of course.
Well, so yeah.
We can't, with the universe as big as it is, it would be absolutely ludicrous.
I think it's absolutely say to around and say that this is the only planet with life on it.
It's a very human to say, though.
Yeah.
And I mean we could go on just on that subject alone, but absolutely. And I totally agree with you. Unless it was absolutely disproven what yourself is explaining there to me, then until then I thoroughly believe you, because anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Well, Mark could tell you. Mark, tell him about the one in the car.
Well, yeah, that's one. I'll give you the condensed version of that one. That one was a couple of months back when Irene and her husband were traveling up north to Scotland for a funeral of a family member, and they were driving to the airport, and they couldn't find their way, or they were a bit lost in this kind of very rural area where nobody was really around, and this gentleman
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning. This gentleman appeared out of nowhere, so they stopped and asked him for directions, and he got in the car and showed him how to get there. And the whole time, Irene's feeling there's something not right with him, and he's not talking much. He's just pointing directions, and then when they get to the location, he gets out of the car and vanishes.
Yeah, I've seen that's, believe it or not, has actually happened to myself and my wife.
Oh, really? Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely, and again, condensed, very easy. We had a little Peugeot 206 at the time. We were up in the Shetlands, and we were in the local town of Lerwick, and we were looking to head to the south end of the island to where we lived. And as I sort of came past where the shopping centre is, there was a little lay-by with a bus stop in it, and there was this old man sitting there, and he looked rather confused. And the gear that he was wearing was like, you would expect someone to see an elderly person dressed like that, but now thinking about it, it was maybe 1940s. That sort of dress code. Anyway, it was sort of, something made me want to speak to him. So we pulled up alongside him. I said, are you okay? Because there's no buses coming past. I said, you missed the last bus. And he said, and my wife here heard him as clear as day, he said, I'm just going to Cunningsborough. And that was the next town over. And it was on our way. So we said, jump in. So I jumped in the back and he sat in the front. And my wife, anyway, we sort of took him to where he was going, and we dropped him off, and he sort of crossed the road. I turned to speak to my wife, turned back to look, make sure he got in his house okay, and he'd vanished. I said to my wife turned around and she said to me, he's a strange old man, that. And I said, how do you mean? I said, he's just a typical old man. She said, did you notice that he didn't smell? Now, I know that sounds strange, but she said, did you notice that he didn't smell? I said, what do you mean? She said there was no scent coming off of him whatsoever. No fustiness from his jacket, no aftershave, no nothing.
Yeah, that's another thing. This one didn't either.
And he didn't speak a word. He said that to us at the bus stop, where he was going to. He says, Cunningsborough. I said, get in, and he just sat there, and we had that sort of awkward silence. Now, luckily, it was only a 10-minute journey, but there was that sort of weird, awkward, heavy silence. He got out of the car, no problem. And, as I say, crossed the road, we spoke to each other, looked in his direction, he'd gone. And there's no way, if you'd have saw how he moved, there's no way that he made it up those stairs and in that house by the time I looked back at him. No way.
Yeah, well, it's like my one, right? we must have travelled at least 15 miles, if not further, to get to the airport. We were well lost.
Yeah.
We were going to Bristol Airport to get the plane up to Glasgow, right? And this was at 4 o'clock in the bloody morning, and this old man is out there walking. But at the point, after he disappeared, about, oh, Christ almighty, this feeling sticks with you for ages afterwards that there's something wrong. And about a week later, I was talking to my husband, and we both said what we saw. He saw him dressed in different clothes to what I saw him in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you saw him in glasses, and Brian said he wasn't wearing glasses, or was it the other way around?
No, I said it. I think Brian said he was wearing glasses, and I saw him without glasses. And Brian said his hair was really tidy and neat, but to me, his hair was all over the place as if he'd been dragged through a bush backwards.
Yeah, that is weird. What we seen was exactly the same, but what you're seeing completely different, and that's just weird.
Yeah, we both saw different things, but we both saw him, and he was in the car. And when he got out the car, he just vanished. And like you only got to take your eyes off for a second. I think I looked at Brian looked at me, and we looked back, and he was gone. And there was nowhere he could have gone to. And an old man like that out on the streets that time of the morning, in the middle of nowhere, there wasn't even a house about where we picked him up. There was no houses. It was just a country road.
Strange things. But it's all these little things like that happen. I say little, it's quite a major thing when you think about it. But
yeah,
in the grander scheme of things, these little things like that happen that people don't always take notice of. And that's why often I'll say to people, they'll say, oh, well, I don't see spirit, I don't hear spirit. And I think, but what if you have? You probably have, and you haven't even realised. Like, take for instance, our experiences.
Yeah. Well, I've seen them, and I've seen them as solid as you and me.
Yeah.
You know, literally as solid as you and me. And then you see them in other forms as well. But
right.
It's only when they go past you or you walk past them that it clicks. Christ, that one was dead.
Yeah. Yes,
yeah, that was a ghost. And it's only at that split second, and you turn around and they're not there.
Yeah, it's just. Do you know? It's obviously. I mean, it goes without saying. I'm interested in the paranormal. It'd be a bit of a strange one if I wasn't, but that is a massive reason as to why the paranormal field interests me, and I couldn't care less. I know it sounds very arrogant, but I couldn't care less whether I had another investigation to go on or not, or whether I never do another one again. I would still take great satisfaction in listening to other people's experiences, such as yourselves, and that's in the mainstream media. I just love reading, watching, and listening to anything to do with the paranormal. It fascinates me, or the supernatural.
With me, it's total opposite. It doesn't fascinate me. I do it because that is what I am. That's all I've ever known. This is my way of life.
Natural.
Yeah, it's natural to me because I've been like it from knee-high to a grasshopper since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. So I've grown up with it. So, but there is no fascination. It's just the way it is for me, you know. So The only fascination I got is something different, which is doing radio shows about it.
Yeah, because it's become the norm, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, it is the norm to me.
For me, I think it's similar in the sense of, yes, I've had many, many experiences. I've seen many, many things. I've heard many things, blah, blah, blah. But what grips me is just, like, you could have, all three people could have the same experience, but it will mean and affect each person differently.
Yeah.
So that's the bit that I find fascinating, where I say about and listening, because myself and yourself have just had a very similar experience, yet it's different, has its own different twist to it, if you follow what I'm saying, like where yourself and your other half there, you've seen different people almost, if you like. It's the same person but in different ways. Whereas myself and my wife have almost the same experience, yet we see the same person. And that's the bit that I have to then ask myself, well, why is that? Why did you in that instance see the person that you saw, and why did your husband see the person that he saw?
I don't know. I don't know. But have you actually spoken to her about her description of this person? Because it was only when I started talking to Brian, and we started, Brian saw him in a dark jacket. I saw him in a light jacket. Brian said he had a rucksack. I didn't see any rucksack. And Brian said he had a torch. I didn't see any torch.
Yeah.
And but we both had the same experience. We both remember he sat in the back seat of the car, and all the time he was in there, I just knew there was something different about him. His energy wasn't bouncing right. There was something. It was out. The energy was out.
Totally.
And I said to Brian afterwards on the way up to Scotland on the plane, I said, there was something really weird about that bloke. Didn't you think there was something weird about the bloke? He said, no, he's just an old man. But as he thought about it more during the week, he agreed with me that there was something strange about him.
Yeah.
And then talking about it, obviously, we both saw him in different ways.
Well, you see, that's it. And there'd have been a reason for that,
Well, some people say he was a guardian angel. Some people say he was some sort of angel that's sent there to make sure that I got to the funeral. Yeah. Without him, we would have missed that plane.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. But
that may be the...
Yeah, it could be. It could be, because it wasn't the same energy as what you normally experience when you see a spirit in a house or a haunting or something like that. The same way as that is at the gates, it's not the same energy.
Yes.
But what amazed me was that my granddaughter actually saw it. So is she going to be like me? Is she going to be a seer? I don't know.
Well, she probably will be, in my opinion. And listening to what you've been saying, it sounds certainly that way. It looks, all the evidence points that way, if you like. But it should be a natural thing, and like I'm sure you do, just let them develop and let's see where it goes.
Well, she's just turned 12. Well, no, she's coming up 13. She's coming up 13 after Christmas, so she's at that age.
Absolutely, my daughter's the same, but my daughter is more. She talks more about hearing, rather than seeing so much. But some things she said, I know she's just sort of making up for conversation. Some things that she said, I'm thinking, how does she know that? She shouldn't have known that. She shouldn't have heard that. She shouldn't have seen that. How does she know these things? And then other times, you just know as a parent, it's just for conversation, so to speak.
Well, my son, my eldest son, he's a seer. His gifts are a lot stronger than mine.
Yeah.
Oh, really? You feel his are stronger than yours?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But he just he doesn't really want much to do with it.
No, he doesn't. No. But it's natural to him. He lives with it. But he doesn't talk about it because, there is a big hefty fella, and one thing or another, he starts, people take the piss, don't they?
Yeah. See, again, that needs to change, you know.
Yeah, but he can walk into a place and just clear it out just like that.
Yeah.
Thump, no trouble, and he knows exactly what's in there. So before he's even entered a house, he can turn around and say, yes, this, that, and that. You know, he's absolutely fantastic, but he's just not interested in dealing with it.
Well,
He's one of those, it's like me, if something goes, he just takes no notice of it.
Yeah, people just do it in their own time if they want to or not at all. It's up to them, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Yeah. But Billy's seen loads of things in this house. He was laying in here once when we were away. He had his 2 young sons, toddlers. Well, one's a baby and one's a toddler, up in the back bedroom asleep, and he had the door open so that he could. And he was laying in the sitting room with the door open, so he could hear them if they cried or anything like that. And he was laying there, and all of a sudden he realised there was a conversation going on at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
And he said it didn't register straight away that these people were up there talking. He said, and then until one of them turned around and said, let's go and check on the boys. And that's it. Billy shot up those stairs thinking somebody had got in the house, but there was no one up there.
I bet he did. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Speaking of kids, I remember I lived in Beaconsfield at the time with my wife. She's from South Bucks. That's where she's from. She's from a place called Gerrard's Cross. Anyway, we were there, and our daughter had just been born, and she'd been born in High Wycombe Hospital. So we just brought her home, put her in her little room, and she's in her cot. And myself and my wife were chatting away in the hallway near the kitchen end, chatting away, and I just had a sudden feeling that, you know, like that horrible gut feeling that something isn't right. And I swear to this day that I mean, because of the anxiety and what happened at that moment, I'll explain in a wee second, I can't think if it did happen or not, but I'm positive I heard a voice call my name from her room. I just dropped our conversation and I ran. And I went into the room, and it's just as well I did, because we'd done a room up all nice, like a new nursery, as you can imagine. And the blinds, you know it's coming. I put these new blinds up, and then the blinds that I put up had the string in them.
Yeah.
She was virtually hanging. That's what she was doing. She got it twisted round her throat, and she's choking, you know, and she wasn't making a single bit of noise because, you know, she couldn't. But something alerted me to get there and go and check. And it's just as well I did, because obviously if I hadn't, God knows what would have happened.
Oh my God! Yeah, don't bear thinking about, does it?
No, I don't even want to. But
she's got a guardian angel, obviously.
Well, this is it. But what was a similar said about guardian angels? She mentioned when she was little. We'd since moved to Glasgow, and we were there, and she said to me, she doesn't know my mum. You see, my mum passed away a month before she was born. And it was her dying wish that she had a granddaughter, which of course she ended up receiving. So they never met each other, and she'd never seen any photographs of my mum. And she come out of her bedroom one day, and she comes over, and she must have been about 3 years old, I think. And she come over to me, and she says, "Granny Gemma." And I went, "Hang on a minute." I said, "What did you say?" She said, "Granny Gemma." Now my mum's name was Gemma, you know, and she. Granny Gemma. I said, "What?" It confused me. It took me. I had sort of a few moments where I thought, "What the hell just happened there?" I said, "What do you mean, Granny Gemma?" She says, "Come, Daddy, come." And she took my hand and she took me through to where her bedroom was. And the first impact that I got as soon as I stepped over the threshold into her bedroom was I could feel my mum's energy. I didn't see her. I could just feel her energy. And so I knew that what Bonnie was, that's my daughter, but Bonnie was telling me, I thought was absolutely right, you know. And she's always spoken since then, especially at moments where she's been ill or she's fallen and hurt herself or something like that. You know, these sort of things have happened. She's always spoke about Granny Gemma being there. So is my mother her guardian angel? It's very, very possible.
Yeah, you're saying that. That's weird, because my granddaughter, the one that I was with that saw when we saw this at the gate,
Yeah.
when she was a little one, she talked about Nana M. That's right, which turned out to be the great grandmother, the great grandmother, Emma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that going back to that original story that I was saying there about where I saw my actual grandmother's daughter, how they had prepared her for burial. That was her first child, who would have been my Auntie Margaret.
Yeah.
That at the time I was never spoken about. Because my granny had her out of wedlock. You see, so it was, don't talk about this child, and because she was ill and she'd passed, it was just something they never spoke about. There was no way of me finding that out. So, and a lot of people since then, whenever speaking to me mediums, they've always said, you've got this lady with you, and how they describe her is like my grandmother. It's keeping a grandmother theme there, you see. So I wonder if that was the case, that in your case, like you're saying, guardian angels is possible.
Well, I don't know. That's what somebody suggested on Facebook, that, maybe my cousin who had passed had sent somebody to get me because he wanted to make sure I was going to make his funeral.
That's possible. It's very possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so.
But you know what? At the same time, it just really makes me question all that. It seems a little convenient to jump to that conclusion. Oh, a guardian angel. But, in truth, we really don't know what it is we're dealing with or what their capabilities are. These types of what I think of as these higher types of entities or beings, whether you want to think of them as angels or whatever else. I don't like using the term because I think it brings a lot of extraneous things with it that don't really need to be associated with it. But it just seems like we're dealing with a version of reality that we just don't quite understand.
Well, that's it. It's we don't understand any of it. We only get snippets. What anybody's experienced in this lifetime or the one previous or the one after will only ever be snippets. We will never get to experience the full extent of what is actually going on, who these beings are, where this energy comes from, all that sort of carry on. We'll only ever be able to guesstimate or assume. So whether angels are angels, whether ghosts are ghosts, if that sounds really stupid, but if you follow what I'm trying to say, we only ever know very, very snippets of what it actually is, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sense of what I'm actually saying at the exact same time I'm saying it, which is ludicrous.
Now, Ryan, what would you say? You've mentioned that you're earlier in the program, you're a medium, but as we all know, I particularly hate labels and terms. Do you feel that accurately describes you and your abilities, or do you feel that you don't like that term?
Well, first off, yes, I'm a psychic medium. Yes, I'm clairvoyant, clairsentient. I can see, I can hear, I can feel, but I don't like being labelled. I just don't like it. I found through my experience of going through spiritualist churches, which I did quite in depth. I even got on one of the committees at the church. And what I found through watching, I helped, if you like, again, I don't like describing it this way, but developing mediums. And what I found was there'd be many mediums, and it happens all over the world. It's not just here in the UK. There'd be many that would go through, let's say, for argument's sake, a 10-week awareness class. You hear about these awareness classes all the time. You'd see, they go through one of these awareness groups or classes, and then suddenly they're an international medium, or they class themselves as a psychic medium. And I think, why? So it's almost like they're popping these mediums, if you like, again, and I put in brackets mediums. It's like they're getting it out of a cereal box, It's like the old driving license. When you see a bad driver, you say they must have got their license at a cereal box, because when whenever you watch these mediums, they never give accurate descriptions of the people that they're claiming that they're linking with in the spirit world. The detail's just not good enough. The standard is below average. And then we wonder why, as a medium, again using that terminology in that bracket, then we wonder why, as mediums, that we get laughed at or get poked fun at about what we do. It's because there's just so many going out there just jumping onto the bandwagon claiming that they're mediums, and that's why I don't like it. Because everywhere I go, and as soon as someone knows that I'm a medium, they start asking loads of questions. And I don't want to work like that.
And people again, because of the label, they jump to conclusions. They think, oh, you can read my mind, or you can tell me, am I going to find my soul mate? And you get the most insane, insipid questions, and it doesn't work that way. But I've also known a lot of so-called mediums who do gallery readings, and it becomes clear that they're doing cold readings. They suddenly get somebody who has a first name of J and who may have been a father. Okay, that one's you can narrow down. Or they tell somebody, you pick out an older person in the audience. I feel you're having trouble with your knee. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We're all having trouble with our knees.
No, you're right. That's my saying. I think what you've done there is I think you've stalked my profile and my live videos, and you've nicked one of my sayings. I use that one all the time.
Yeah. So it's just.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Totally, big time. It's something actually in relation to what you just said there happened to me recently, where I was doing, as I said before, I used to on the Paranormal channel. I still do, but pardon me. When I used to do like live shows and where I would use different pieces of paranormal equipment, and rather than using them to give readings or anything like that, or to necessarily link with specific spirit that the public might have been asking for, such as a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, or whatever. It was mainly experimental purposes to let's see if we can get intelligent responses from this equipment. Now, I did this live video, and then coming near the end of it, I stopped the experiment, so to speak, and then I decided to speak a little bit about what I thought about mediums and how I felt they should progress and how I think they're not progressing. And I mentioned it. I made a blasé comment about how when you're on Facebook and you see these posts where mediums will say, comment below this picture, your name, your date of birth, or whatever the case may be, whatever the information it is that they're asking for, it's really irrelevant, but they'll ask for something. And then they will say, and I will give a free reading in half an hour, a day, a week, or whenever it is that they choose.
Bloody Google's very quick, isn't it? It's good, Google.
Yes, well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And my point that I made on that particular live was, I said, please. I had 200 odd people watching live, so that's pretty good figures. And I'd said, look, avoid these people like the plague. I said, there will be some naive mediums out there who are legit and are true, but they just don't realise the implications and how they're opening themselves up to questions by doing that. So not all of them are fakes when they ask those questions. They just don't realise that they're doing it the wrong way, if that makes sense. I said, but the majority of them you will find are just doing it so they can, like you said, Irene, use Google or whatever, or scroll through your Facebook or any of these things. And then what I added on the end of the conversation was, and watch if you do comment on these to get a free reading and you get one, I said, pay attention to what it is that they're saying. Always question every single little thing that a medium gives you. That's what they're there for. And if they argue any different, then forget it. Walk away.
Yeah, and don't get drawn into questions. Answer yes or no, and that's it.
Well, that's right. And when I when I do my readings, and it's publicly known, I've even put recorded live videos that I've done of services, so it's well checkable to verify what I'm saying now. And that is, when I do my readings, I always say, please do not give me any information. And then I'll pat my belly and say, because don't feed me, I'm big enough as it is. It's a common thing I use. But I always say, just say yes, no, I don't know, or I'm not sure. And then please don't be frightened to say no or I don't know, because it's my job to go back to the spirit world, if you like, if you want to use that sort of way of looking at it, and try and get some more information. And also, I can never guarantee anything. Now, to cut this long story short, this woman did a post very shortly after, her own live post actually, and she tore me to pieces. She said, I have never been so offended in all my life, blah, 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 because that's what she did. And she actually got it wrong. She said that I was personally attacking her, and that I was calling all mediums fake that do online readings. So what I did was, being the argumentative person that I am...
And a medium does not need to have any details.
That's right. So what I did was I went back to the live video, I downloaded it off of Facebook, I cut out the little bit of comment that I'd made, I put it on another video, put her little comment that she made off of her video and put them back to back, and I said, now here's what she's saying I said, but here's what I actually said. I said that the majority, not all, because there will be mediums, like you heard me say, there will be mediums out there who are genuine, they just don't know the right ways to go about it, or they don't always think first, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I know a very good medium who put a similar post up saying, look, I'll give a free reading tomorrow, and she wasn't going to research anybody. She was genuine 100%, and I will back her all the way. That's what she was going to do. But it's the implications that come with it, the accusations, that could come with that.
Well, and it was different in my day when I was doing it, because the computers weren't like they are now. You didn't have Google, you didn't have all this. You had bloody one room with a flaming computer in it that had massive great spools that you had to kick every time it went down.
Yeah, sure.
That sort of computers. So, yeah, but today it's too easy on the internet to find information about people. It really is. I track people down all the time for various reasons, and
it's about the information that you need to be given. I mean, never mind this. I've got your dad, your granny, your uncle, your brother. Well, if you do, what do they sound like? What do they look like? How do they smell? There must be some sort of smell, sound.
Yeah. You've definitely got to give something that's concrete.
Of course there is. And I'm getting very emotional about what I'm saying in that sense, because about what I'm saying, because I remember taking the platform once, and I had what we call a fledgling I was part of the Spiritualist National Union for a while. And anyway, we had one of these sort of up-and-coming mediums come with me, and she gave off her information.
Yeah.
And after the person could take the information, that afterwards I was quite harsh with her, but not in a nasty way. It was the same way I was taught, if you like. Again, I don't like that brackets, but I said to her, look, that was okay. I mean, I understand that the lady could accept what you were saying, but next time it needs to be better. I said, what you gave just was not good enough. And I know that sounds really harsh and really terrible, but if you'd have been the way I said it wasn't quite as how it sounds. I just said to her, what you need to be looking at is not just saying, well, I have your mother here, she passed of a heart attack, she had swollen feet or whatever the case may be, and she was 57, just for argument's sake. You need to be looking at, well, when did she pass? How did she pass? What did her hair colour look like? Roughly, if you can, what size was she? And if you can't tell any of those details, then can you hear her? Can you smell her? Can you sense her? What's she making you feel like? what's her energy? What ailments is she putting on you? If that's the case, or whatever, you know.
Well, you know, when I used to do this,
Yeah.
years and years ago, you know, I never went to any spiritualist churches or anything. I only went once, and I was drawn to it for some reason. And the medium on the stage, Ivy Scott, her name was, she pointed at me and said, "I need to see you afterwards."
Yes.
She said, "You're being flooded with light." She said, "Oh, I've just banged the bloody mic." She said, "Yeah, you're being flooded with light. I need to see you afterwards. I need to talk to you about something." Anyway, that was the only time I ever went.
Yeah.
And because it's all natural with me, it just came naturally, and one thing or another. And but I used to get tested by people, and this for people that want to read one of my books when it's actually being re-edited by Mark at the moment, but it will be back on the shelf soon among the spirits. Yeah, that's.
I'm actually writing my own book too as well.
That's an evil little plug there, but I was always tested by people. Like there was a woman once. I had her father. Yeah. And she said, "If you could tell me what I've done what I done on the day with my father after he died." So I was picking up this whole story, and it was working out like a film in my head. You know, it was just going through my head. So I related it to her. To cut it in a nutshell, right? Her father had been remarried after his first wife died. His brother had died and been buried in the churchyard, and he always said that he wanted to be buried with his brother, okay? Yeah. That was his wishes. But his new wife, his second wife, her stepmother, wanted him cremated and his ashes put near the wall of the church, near to God. So it fell upon the daughter to sort this all out. So what she did, they had him cremated. And what she actually did was she took the ashes in the urn and a bunch of flowers to the church. Now, I'm seeing all this, and I'm telling her it. Yeah. And while I'm telling her it, you know, her mouth is wide open. So she takes the ashes and this bunch of flowers, and she walks over close to the church wall, you know, the actual church itself. Yep. And she laid the flowers on the floor, and she took the flowers out of the wrapping. She made the wrapping she put the wrapping back into a funnel shape, and she poured some of the ashes in there. Okay. Then she took the rest of the ashes, dug a hole near the church, and poured those ashes into the hole near the church, and then covered it up. Went to her uncle's grave, his brother, dug a hole in his grave, and poured the rest of the ashes in there. So she had followed. She had, in her mind, she had done what her stepmother wished and what her father wished.
Sure.
And that was concrete proof. And I was getting that all the time. Well,
you see,
sort of things.
Recently I was working alongside Lee and...
Lee Roberts.
Yeah. We did a charity event. It was a 12-hour ghost hunt, but I was doing some mediumship sort of to break up the night. And I won't go into, because the message was personal, I won't go into great detail over it. But I was speaking to the lady who was running it, and she had recently lost her daughter, and that was the whole point of raising the money. But I knew no details of it. I didn't know any backstory of the young girl who'd lost her life, etc. Anyway, I was getting nothing for her all night. I was really hoping that when I got there, I thought, right, it'd be really nice to give this lady a nice message, you know. But I refuse to give people messages. Obviously, I won't just give someone a load of rubbish. So unless I actually have anything concrete for them, I've got nothing to say, so to speak. So I all night went, I got nothing for it. And just at the very end, we were chatting away, and I had given her my pendulum to play around with. Yeah. I said, have a look at that. So I'm chatting to Lee, and I could see her over in the distance. She was over the other side of the room. She's playing with this pendulum, and it's working, or it looked like it was working from where I was sitting. And anyway, I thought, I've got to go and speak to her, you know. I just felt the urge to go over to her. So I went over and I gave her a message. I was able to describe a box and all the contents that were kept in this box. It's like a memory box and all the different things that were in it. I even told her the colour of all the items and in full detail. And that was that. Anyway, I gave her the message and she was blown away by it. And she says to me, she said, that's amazing. And I said, I'm not amazing. I said, it's all from spirit. They're the ones that do the hard work. All I am is like a telephone. I said, I'm just passing on the message. She said, yes. She said, but it was weird how it happened. I said, how do you mean? She said, well, you could see me sitting here alone. She said, you gave me the pendulum because it would keep me entertained, so to speak. Because she, of course, as you can imagine, she's still down in the dumps. She's still not chirpy kind of thing, if you know what I mean. And I gave her the pendulum. She's playing away with it. And she had asked if it was her daughter that she was speaking to with the pendulum. And the reply was yes. I mean, I can only say apparently because I don't know, I couldn't hear what she was asking. But this is what she said. She said she asked the pendulum if this was her daughter, and it said yes. She then asked the pendulum if it was her daughter, would she go to Ryan and speak with me? And it said yes. And less than 30 seconds later, I walked straight over to her, feeling the urge that I explained, and gave her the message that I needed to give her. So you could look at many different variable reasons about what could have happened there that could have been more, not necessarily spirit and all the rest of it. But that for me is excellent because that woman was separate to me. She was nowhere near me. I couldn't hear the questions that she was asking because she was, not only was she saying them, but she was whispering them. Just all in a row. So there's no possible way that I could have known that at that moment was the perfect moment to go over and speak to her. And not only that, but give her information that I couldn't possibly know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you see, this again is proof. But these other things, I've got a lady here. You've only got to look at the person who's sitting in front of you, and you can roughly judge what their relatives were like, That's
right. But I mean, I've often said...
how many people turn around and say, I got a lady here, she's a bit dumpy, and she's got bad legs. I bet you nearly every family's had a dumpy lady somewhere with bad legs in their family.
That's right. So what, as a medium, what I would then look for would be, okay, if that's how I'm going to start off the message, then I want to say, well, not only has she got problems with the legs, but where exactly? And not only where, but when did this start to happen? Yeah. And did it ease off or did it continue towards their passing? And, look to refine that detail and get more detail with it. Yeah. Not just keep it bland and the same old shite, excuse the language, but
that's it. Really I'm not bashing these mediums, but I've seen so many crap mediums, it's unbelievable. I just have to laugh and walk away because what can you do? They're out there. They're everywhere,
Well, I tell you what I mean, I know, you said, oh, you're not bashing them, and I went, well, I am. I don't mean it in a personal attack. It's not like that as a personal individual. It's based on the performance level is what I'm looking at, so to speak. And I don't, again, performance. It's not. Well,
this is it. And also, if you're charging, for God's sake, give them something for their bloody money.
Well, that's it. I've always say to my clients, and I will say clients because at the end of the day, it's for me. It's I don't have another job. It's what I do. So someone said to me, you shouldn't charge for giving readings. Well, you're not charging for the reading, in my opinion. You're charging for the time of the medium.
That's it. Yeah.
I have a family to feed and bills to pay.
I've got nothing against mediums charging because, like you said, it's your time. That's true. That is true. I never charged a bloody penny in my life for anything I've done. Yeah. But that's because I was not meant to be a medium. It was a learning curve to move on to something other than that. And that's how it's been all through my life. Go through different stages to get to progress where I am now.
I'm still waiting for you to tell me when I'm going to become rich.
Oh, well,
well, I can tell him when he's going to become rich. When I pass over and he inherits a ring.
Oh, God. I wouldn't exactly call that rich.
But when there's Phil.
Well, you see, I was going to say that you will become rich, but only for 5 minutes, because then once you become rich, you're going to split all your money between a crazy Scotsman called Ryan and I love it. So the richness will only last for 5 minutes, my friend, but cherish it very wisely.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Ryan, let me ask you then, because I know people love hearing stories, and I just wanted to ask you if you had any more personal experiences that you want to share with the listeners about things that you've seen or experienced.
Yeah, investigation-wise, I've got a absolute. If I had a file, it would fill about 100 filing cabinets, the experiences that I've had. But there's several things that stick out that are just that will always stay with me. And I went through quite a troubled. I don't mind talking about it because at the end of the day, it's going to be in my book anyway. But I went through quite a lot of physical abuse, like when I was younger. And I remember on one occasion. This was certain events were taking place in regards, and I was told to stand in my bedroom and face my cupboard door, which was like a built-in cupboard, while my stepfather proceeded to hit me with the belt. I know it's quite graphic, but you asked for a story. But he was hitting me with this. Anyway, when he was hitting me with this belt, I saw this man come out from the cupboard. And he was stood. He looked like, the only way to describe him was like, and Irene will know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you do too, Mark. But he was like a northerner farmer. He looked like Jack Sugden off of Emmerdale. Have you seen that, Irene? You remember Jack?
Yeah, I got a mouthful of popcorn. Yeah, I remember Jack Sugden.
Yeah, so he was. If you can picture Jack Sugden, he was very much like that. And if you're not sure, Mark, just Google him, Jack Sugden. Yeah. He looked like him. Anyway, he stood in front of me. He didn't say a single thing, and he just looked at me. Not frightened. He didn't frighten me, and he wasn't smiling. It was just a natural look, like he was looking at his own reflection. And that I didn't feel no pain of getting hit with this belt or nothing like that. And then that finished, and my stepfather, he went off, and I was sort of obviously crying. I was only a young boy and stuff. And I laid in my bed, and as I laid in my bed, the cupboard door opened where I'd seen this gentleman. But this will freak some people out. Inside that cupboard, my little sister, she used to have like one of those big, they were like hard plastic dolls, and they used to have batteries in them, and they could like walk.
I remember them.
She had like a pink dress on and blonde hair and all that. I can't remember.
Yeah, if that doll was about today, mate, it'd be down on the internet as haunted.
Oh yeah, so she had one of them, and it terrified the life out of me. Probably because at that time it was like mid-80s. I mean, you're talking, this was like Chucky time and all that sort of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I shoved it in the cupboard. Excuse me. And the cupboard door opened, and I'm not really bothered if anyone believes in me. I know what I saw. That doll walked straight across to me and stared me in the face, similar to how I said about that bad spirit before. It was right in my face. It was like that. But again, I didn't feel terrified. It just happened.
Well, let me ask a question on that one, and Irene, I'd like your thought on that. When you experience something like that, when an inanimate object moves, like it walks out of your closet and walks up and looks at you, do you feel that that object really moved? Or is it some type of projection? Because I know that sometimes these things we can experience alternate realities, and maybe it's something that you're experiencing in your own head or your own psyche, and not actually physically the doll's walking across the floor. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally respect exactly what you're saying. I totally respect that, and I can understand where you're coming from. In this particular instance, absolutely physically happened. But I can relate to how you're saying it because as a medium taking a platform and I give a demonstration, I can see things through my mind's eye that are happening in front of my eyes, but other people can't see it. So like a series of events or something moving or what have you. But in this case, it was physically actually happening. Like if my wife walked into the room that I'm in now and opened the door, it was exactly the same. And as she walked towards me in exactly the same fashion, that actually happened. I could hear the creaking of the plastic. These shoes that she used to wear used to have they were almost like golf shoes. They had these little, almost like, what you call them, studs on the bottom of her shoes. And I remember hearing that crunching over it's like making a soft crunching noise over my hard carpet. I had a very thin carpet as it walked towards me. And I could hear it all creaking. I could hear everything, like the plastic stretching, all that,
Did you have to put the doll away?
Yeah, I kicked it. I kicked it. The first reaction that came into my head was kick it in the face.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying. You see, I don't think it was the doll. It's not the doll. It's something.
No.
It's something moved the doll.
Yes,
it's like I took an old clock out of a location once because it was, there was problems around this clock. Put it on my mantelpiece here, right? Sat in this front room and watched that clock rise up off the mantelpiece, move about 6 foot into the middle of the room, and then it lowered itself slowly down onto the floor.
Yeah.
Now to say that clock is in my loft and not on the mantelpiece anymore. It's up in the attic. But something moved it.
That's right. And I'm glad you actually said that because that very, very briefly just brings me on to something that relates is objects, haunted objects.
Yeah.
People are often say, I've got a haunted doll, and oh my goodness me, when that haunted doll that morning and all that not so long ago, that was it.
There are so many frigging haunted dolls out there, and I've got one in the loft. It's not haunted, but I'll tell you what, it certainly looks like it could be haunted.
And I've got
it's a spooky doll.
I've got one staring me in the face now, and I have about 12 down the stairs because I used to own an auction house, and I've still got some left over. But one of which, we'll say it's haunted, but the doll itself isn't haunted. I just have a spirit that's in my home that will go wherever that doll goes. It just loves it, And yeah, I totally agree with you. But that's what's happening with. There's not enough knowledge in the world. I mean, I don't have enough knowledge. You don't have enough knowledge. But we have our own levels of knowledge. But there isn't enough knowledge in this world at this time to categorically say, yes, that doll is haunted. It's not, in my opinion. It is like you just said there, spirit moving an item. But
it was with the clock in this house. It was more than likely Herbert saying, "Don't like that up there in that position." That's the way I look at it because I just picked the clock up and then I put it up from the mantelpiece floor and put it over on the windowsill.
Yeah,
and it sat there.
Listening to what you said previously, that wouldn't surprise me at all. That would make perfect sense. But that's the trouble with the general public and the mainstream media and film and Hollywood and all that. They automatically say, if I'm a ghost, I can guarantee you that I will come back and haunt everybody. I will have a right good laugh. I will be a proper...
So would I. Everything will be shifting around in the house.
Someone said to me, when you die, if there is an afterlife, let's keep it neutral. If there isn't, what would be the first thing that you'd do? And I said, I'd go and visit the girls' locker rooms. Yeah. Now, that sounds pervy as anything, but when I was a young lad, and if I got asked a question, that's what I would have said.
Yeah.
But that's the type of character I am. So why would I change?
Yeah.
I would be mischievous. I'd have a bit of fun.
Mind you, Ryan, I've got a ring, haven't I, Mark?
Oh yes, the same one that you just tried to say you're going to pawn off on me.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something about this ring. It belonged to an old hermit in Italy who never, ever took it off.
But you see, that, my opinion, is a different level.
Yeah, this ring's a different level, all right.
Get that feeling immediately in it.
If you want to look at it, you just Google Demon Ring of Amalfi on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. We see, again, people... I thoroughly believe in there has to be bad with good and good with bad, black with white and white with black. It has to be the case. And you know that with things like you're talking about there, demon ring, and then there's plenty of people out there that'll say, oh, it's a demon. And
no, we don't believe it's a demon at all. You know, it's just nicknamed the demon ring, but it's... you can explain it more, Mark.
Well, the ring itself, and that'll be another picture we'll have to share with you, is if you look it up on Facebook, you'll see it. It looks like when you first look at the ring, it looks like it's made of Satan. You know, it's a a rammed horned man with a long pointed face and beard, and it has rubies in the eyes. It's very handmade and it's very old. And yet in the research that we've done on it, we think it could even be related to, it was found in Italy, at least one person who found it. You know, it could be related to Roman god Pan, or it could even go back even further to Sumerian times.
Yes, true.
But, you know, your first reaction when you see it is it looks evil.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to do a lot of research on it to see if we could figure out where it's come from. But the people's gut reaction, especially if they come from a Christian background, they'll look at it and they go, oh my God, that's a devil ring.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I'm very, very fond of him. He's not evil. I don't class him as evil. Mischievous, he does get into mischief. I've got to admit that. We have to lock him away in a safe. I call him a he because I don't know why. But then again, people call cars she's.
Well, this is true. This is very true.
No, he's
But again,
when I wear him, my whole character changes.
Yeah.
I become aggressive. I become...
naughty.
Naughty. Mischievous. Depending, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine you being like that.
Oh, you haven't seen nothing yet, Stephen.
I haven't.
even today, it took a lot of effort to rein her in.
He had me on video with the ring once, and you asked for something, didn't you? What was it you asked for? And there was a shadow or something, a light went over behind my head in answer to the question. What was it?
I can't remember now. Well, we have it written down somewhere.
Show itself or something or other, and suddenly, boom, it went over.
Yeah.
That ring.
Yeah, this is intriguing. I'm going to have to check these out.
Well, yeah. There's a story behind it, again, in Among the Spirits people, when it comes back onto the shelves.
Oh, there you go. That's a good plug.
Yeah, I keep on plugging my...
Loads of stuff that I can check out.
I plug all my books, you know, the Demons Dwell, The Tower, Among the Spirits, The Psychic Spy, and coming up, The Spy in Paris.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that's... Well, it is your show, so you can...
Here all night.
Yeah, it is your show, Irene, so you can pimp your books.
Yes, I can pimp my books. Trouble is, then we've withdrawn them all for re-editing, haven't we?
Yeah, updating and putting out new editions. Yep. So that will be coming soon. But you know, we have a few minutes left here in the show. And so, Ryan, I was just going to ask, you know, you started to tell a couple of stories, and with mediumship, I'm interested in your mediumship abilities. Because, like, as Irene mentioned earlier, she started doing some mediumship early in her career and branched off in other things. But occasionally, something will come up. The one story that I just get a kick out of is a few weeks back, we interviewed Whitley Strieber. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He is a famous UFO contactee. He wrote the book Communion, but he has a new book. He had a new book coming out called The Afterlife Revolution. See, Whitley, I plugged your book too. which is really good, where his wife passed a few years ago, and he's had this ongoing relationship with his wife after death. And it's a really intriguing, fun book to read. And during the interview, we both were kind of feeling that she might be around. But what really got me was after the show and we ended and Whitley had already signed off, I was talking to Irene privately off the air, and I made a comment about, because Whitley shared a couple of these stories and he was telling them in a really dramatic fashion. And, I'm sitting there going, and so I made a comment on it, go, well, what do you think about those stories he told? And Irene, just out of the blue, without batting an eye, said, that's just Whitley being Whitley.
Yeah.
And then I look at her and I'm going, wait a minute, you don't know him. Why did you say that? And she goes, say what? She didn't realize, and then she goes, why did I say that? I don't know why I said that. And we figured it out, and later I went and I mentioned it to Whitley. I told her what happened. He just laughed. He goes, that is exactly the thing that his wife would say all the time.
Yeah, totally. Things like that have happened to myself. On one occasion, I remember sitting in someone's living room. We were chatting away, and I'm mid-conversation, blathering a lot of rubbish, as I usually do. And they're looking at me, and I'm thinking, why are they giving me that strange look? And then the look sort of changed on their faces from shock to starting to get quite horrific looking. And I thought, what's going on here? And I looked down in the direction that they were looking at, and that was my left arm. And my arm was sort of rested on the, if you like, on the edge of the sofa, on the arm. And I was trembling. That one arm was shaking like the hand had some sort of...
like Parkinson's or something.
Yeah, exactly. But it was only very light. But as soon as I started looking at it, it was doing it more and more and more, and it got so violent I had to hold my wrist to the chair. And then the whole time I'm thinking, this is me, because I'm not aware, even no matter how good a message I can give to someone, I'm not aware of every single energy or spirit that walks past me or comes into contact with me. Sometimes it takes a few minutes, sometimes it's instantaneous. And in this case, I wasn't aware. I thought, well, what's going on? There's something wrong with my own arm here. This is, And anyway, I started doing it. And one of them got quite upset, and I was going, well, what's wrong? And then they proceeded to tell me that where I was sat was where their father's seat had been placed, because he was dying of, I think it was Parkinson's. I'm not going to swear by that because I can't remember exactly what they said it was, but I would assume it probably was something like that. Anyway, they were saying that this is where he sat all the way right up until his death. That the same hand that I had trembling like it was doing it in exactly the same fashion. They even showed me a clip of a video on their phone of him doing the exact same thing in the hospital, where his hand was doing the exact same movement. And the way that I held my hand down is exactly what he did. And then when he passed, that was the same position that they laid the coffin in the house, because they were Catholic, you see.
Huh.
So, there you go.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when this kind of thing happens, because sometimes things happen you're not aware of it. And something else that has happened, with Irene and I is occasionally I'll be talking to her, and it tends to mostly happen if we're typing to each other. But occasionally when we're talking, she'll just blurt something out that's so out of left field. And there have been a few times when I could tell that I'm suddenly talking to somebody else. And
yes, that's right, because you change the character and things, isn't it?
Well, the conversation will take a turn, and she's not aware of it, and then I have to fill her in later what happened. But yeah, there's been a couple of different entities that have come through that either they pose like a really deep question, philosophical or spiritual question to ponder, which has really kind of sent us in different directions with our research these last couple of years. But then lately there was one that came through who was kind of arrogant and was kind of like jumping my shit, for lack of a better term, because of something I said, and kind of like put me in my place. So it's really interesting when things
they come through with highly intelligent stuff that's far beyond my intelligence.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's when I do.
Mark has to work it all out.
I mean, whenever I give a reading, if someone asks me, "Oh, do you remember when you said this? What you said?" I don't remember anything. I'll remember in the long term, but immediately afterwards, I won't remember. And even in the long term, I don't remember every detail about what I said. But I like to do philosophies as well, where I like to, say I was doing a Sunday service at a local spiritualist church, I would do a 15-minute talk where I'd do I'd say to Spirit on my way there, I'd say, look, give me some inspiration, one word, to talk about. And I remember one occasion I said, they gave me the word love. They said, talk about love. Now, when I got up there, I said, today I need to talk about love. And from that moment to when I stopped speaking, I don't remember a single thing that I said. But hearing back...
Well, that's the same as me. I get wiped clean.
Yes.
But with this stuff, it's things... What sort of stuff do I come out with, Mark? It's to do with mind.
One of the more profound ones that came out of nowhere is you just suddenly started grilling me in text about the mind, where the mind plays in between and how it interacts, how it's connected with the soul. And long story short, it made us start to think that how we think of ourselves as spiritual beings here having a human existence. Okay, we're spirits inhabiting human bodies. But if you start thinking about the Trinity, okay, in Christianity, it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But there's this, it's taken more off of, or a similar correlation would be mind, body, spirit. Or actually, if you want to put it in order, mind, spirit, body, where the mind is the all. The mind is the all total consciousness, that God consciousness, or whatever you want to refer to it as, that is tuned into everything. And our souls, the spiritual side of us, is housed with, our minds are housed within the soul that's moving around the spiritual planes and existing. And then, that spirit comes down into human form, inhabiting a body for a lifetime. But
that's how he deciphered it.
That's how I'm describing it for my little monkey brain to interpret and understand. But it's still, when it comes down to it, is that the mind still is connected with all of that cosmic consciousness. Everything that is knowable is there, and it is so much bigger that you think something and make it happen.
Well, I mean, we only use, what is it, I probably got this wrong, maybe you're better saying it, but we only use a specific percentage of our brain, don't we? Imagine if we use all of it, it would be, well, forgive the expression, but mind-blowing, wouldn't it? It'd be crazy.
Well, that's true in one aspect, but it's still not the mind. The brain only acts as a filter to allow us to come through. The brain has its limitations. What I'm talking about is the spiritual mind, the higher self, the higher consciousness that we all possess, that is basically in line with God, or what you would think of as God. It is that divine super consciousness that is in tune with everything. And if flowing down the pipeline, you come down into the spiritual body, which the mind is housed and encased in to a certain extent, and then down here to the physical body. But it was talking along those lines, and really we talked for months about that, kicking that around, that idea around and sharing it. And, even me trying to explain it now, I still don't have the full grasp of it. I'm trying to.
You see, it's just understanding everything is difficult.
Well, and there's only so much that we as physical beings, there's only so much our brains can process and comprehend.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, it's trying to explain quantum physics to an ant. You know, we're just not capable of it, which is why, you know, we look for answers here in the paranormal, in the psychic aspect of it. We try to understand certain things, and some things are just beyond our ability to comprehend. Look at the idea, the simple idea of eternity. Okay, time without end. We think we understand it, but we really don't. We start thinking in centuries and millennia and millions of years, and that still comes nowhere near close to thinking about what true infinity means.
Because we're stuck, mind or the general person is stuck in that sort of material way of thinking, a material link. So like you're saying there, time, and like mediums and people will often say that spirit, there's no sense of time, there's no clock by such that they work through, if that makes sense.
Right.
But here in the physical world, there needs to be a simple explanation, or people just simply can't understand.
Yep. And that's the way it works. In our reality, this is one of the things where our research has really changed. Instead of looking at it, we're physical people trying to prove the existence of the afterlife. It's gotten so much bigger than that. It's gotten to where we're re-examining what we think reality is. What is reality? What is the nature of that we live in this world? We're conditioned to believe in a certain set of rules, and yet those rules are constantly being broken, and for the most part, people ignore it.
Well, that's it. Totally agree.
So it's that kind of real high strangeness that we've been pushed towards these last couple of years in our research, and some of the things that have come through in our conversations when somebody else butts in. Of course, then Irene gets all upset with them, and
but it doesn't mean butts in the physical sense. You know, it's I do get upset with them. Yeah, interrupting.
Well, what happens with myself is I'll be talking away to you like we were, and then they will take my mind somewhere else to do something else, and to talk about something, or to experience something, or someone connected to you, for instance, their energy may come forward, and it distracts me. So then I try to come back into. Do you see what I'm getting at? And that sometimes can annoy me slightly.
Can I ask you, Ryan, has anything come through while you've been trying to talk to us?
There's something is making it. I say something. That's not very fair. And energy is making itself aware to me there. That's why I became suddenly a bit distracted there for just a few minutes, because I was trying to get my bearings on it, and I thought I had to snap myself out of it and say, "Stop doing that." Do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to do a bloody show here. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then, but I was telling myself that too. I was saying, Ryan, stop it, focus, because I'll go with it. I'll start linking with it, and then I'll stop that. And then I found myself trying to get back into what you were saying there, Mark. So I do apologise. I was like, yes.
This happens actually more often than you think when we're doing this show.
After the show, Ryan, can you hang around for a little bit and see if you can pick up anything on the two of us? Because we've both recently lost somebody.
If I can, I will. I can't make no promises, but
we obviously know that.
We actually are coming up on the end of the show right now. We've run out of time. So, Ryan, just want to thank you.
Have we?
Yeah, it's done. Another one in the can. We've had such a great conversation with you tonight. And, of course, I feel like we could easily go another hour. But we want to thank you for coming on the program, and definitely we'll have to have you back.
Yes, I would love to come back, and I want to actually thank you guys for the hard work that you've put in to make this actually happen, not just for me, but other people.
And Ryan, before your books come out, how can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I have a couple of pages. I'll make it very quick. You can find me on my official page, which is Official Ryan Griffiths on Facebook. So that's dead easy. Just type Official Ryan Griffiths in and you'll find me. I have my personal page, which is Ryan William Griffiths, but I keep that mainly for friends and family.
And me.
And you guys, but you guys are family now, so that's all good.
Yeah.
And I have my main project that I'm working on at the minute with Lee Roberts and Pete Cox, which is The Hauntings on Facebook.
I love Lee Roberts.
Lee has helped me beyond words. He's just been an absolutely amazing friend. And I don't care what anyone says or anyone may say, I love the man to bits. He's an excellent friend. Excellent friend.
He is a brilliant man. He's beautiful. Beautiful. He's got a lovely personality.
Absolutely. And he's so genuine.
Okay.
He has a hell of an ego, though. I have to slip that in because he'd love you to say that.
Yeah, all right.
All right, we're out of time. We're out of time. Everyone, thank you again for listening to another edition of Paranormal UK Radio. You can hear us everywhere, and we'll be back again next week. So have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye, everyone.